direct answer that it's not going to be.
Okay, well, the truth of the answer is, we don't know exactly when we're gonna do it, but we accept responsibility for doing it, and we will do it. And it really will be a combination of weather issues, our fiscal situation vis-a-vis the fiscal years. You know, the clock restarts within the fiscal year, so. But, clearly, especially the big dead one. But
And with the two red X's on it, it looks terrible.
well, initially, we thought we could do it all. That's how that happened, but, money supersedes other considerations.
Any other comments?
Excuse me, Steve Weisenberg. So I heard several members of the board talk about whether the Civic Association can use this facility, right? So is there going to be a vote?
Yes.
And when will that happen?
When we do the resolutions?
When will that
Tonight.
Today?
Yes.
Okay. Well, a lot of people, obviously there's a petition. I signed that petition, I think. A lot of people feel strongly about it. But I guess I want to address my thoughts to Jeff Coppelson, because I think you were saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that basically you would be okay with it except that you didn't like what was said and the way it was said. Is that good characterization?
No, it's kind of a simplistic way of looking at it. What I was really talking about is the tenor of both the Civic Association's agenda and the village's antagonism towards the Civic Association. That's the 800-pound gorilla that I've been talking about. And what I said is, I'm up here as a trustee, but I'm also part of Civic Association. So as a trustee, I have to say it is very difficult to hear people constantly attacking us. We're a couple of volunteers here trying to take care of things that are of concern to everybody in the village. And meantime, people just attack us left and right, and it's because of issues outside of government, frankly. It has to do with other things. And what my hope was that the Civic Association and the mayor, and which includes the board, because we would have to vote on it, but specifically we can at least have some kind of an understanding for the good of the village that we would not continue the overt antagonism. And I went to a Civic Association meeting that made me very uncomfortable because it was not very civil. And so, I do agree that the Civic Association has also been taken over by events outside of the Civic Association. So I'm hoping that this can be resolved where we attend to our responsibilities.
You mean distracted by events outside? Is that what you meant?
Distracted and paying more attention to that than to other things.
Well,
I found this thing. Can I just read something?
Sure, but then I have a comment, okay?
Sure. This is what I wrote. This is a paradigm about what I think is going on in the village, because it applies to both sides, and people can either agree with it or not. But the paradigm starts with, they started this whole thing. I have been deliberately and egregiously wounded. Their actions have been maliciously designed to hurt me, and they are continuing, and in fact, they are getting worse. There is no remorse or appreciation of the personal harm this is causing me. I am therefore justified in whatever I do to get back at them. They deserve everything they get. And you can almost apply that to just about anything going on in the world, practically. Each side feels that those bastards started it, and they deserve, and I have to defend myself, and the gloves are off. And I feel that's what's going on. And I feel that it is difficult under the present circumstances to resolve it because of that 800-pound gorilla, which is everything else that's going on legally and whatnot. But if we can resolve it to the point where the Civic Association talks about the things that they're working on, planning on, and we can attend to the affairs of government without being attacked, then I would like to think that the Civic Association would have the use of this hall because that's the way it's been, and they should.
Exactly.
However, and I believe this, it is a privilege, not a right, regardless of what people say about paying their taxes. It is a privilege to be able to use this hall. And if people are invited into our house and then attack us for everything.
It's the community's
Excuse me, I
house.
have.
It's my turn.
Now, if you,
And that's an example of the rudeness part that I'm talking about. So thank you
yes,
for doing
thank
that.
you.
But if it's possible, I would like the Civic Association to agree to something like that. If the Civic Association says, no, those bastards started this and we're going to blah, 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 fine. We can't get into free speech issues. Have your meetings, have your agenda, do whatever you want to do. But it's just not reasonable that we would say, okay, why don't you come into our living room and do that here?
But the problem with that is you're making yourself the arbiter of whether we're good or not, whether we're behaving, whether we're being respectful enough. And one person's attack is another person's criticism. And the line between criticism and attack is a matter of opinion. And if that's what it takes to, it would be a good thing, yes. It would be a good thing if we could all respectfully criticize what is done and not who did it. Like they say with children, criticize the behavior, not the child. That's true, but whether or not that can be achieved, it's something that is somewhat of an arbitrary opinion as to whether, in fact, it is being achieved at any point. And the Civic Association does have a job, I suppose, of being a watchdog. And I can understand people in your position aren't going to, you're not going to necessarily like it. I can understand
Let me
that.
repeat what I said, though, that we are part of the Civic Association. And I have no problem, and I wrote the thing.
But do you understand what I'm saying before you
Yes, I do.
comment further?
Yes, I do, and it is a very hard thing to say, well, where's that line? I totally agree. And I think this is a point where we have to say, okay, if there's going to be a line in the sand, let's draw it. We'll give it back to the Civic Association. You decide. If you say, we're not going to live with that, who are they to say where the line is going to be? And we still need to talk about things. Go ahead. We can't stop you. I think it's good in that regard that you have discussions that are not just talking about cookies and things. That's fine. But it's just that in order to have the meeting in here and then have such vitriolic attacks
And wrong information.
and the disinformation, there's a lot of disinformation that goes out that is just not fair, and it's if you want to get into that, okay. I mean, I guess that goes on everywhere, but we are under no obligation to allow that to come here. I wish that wasn't the case, believe me.
Right, but I'm asking you to consider allowing the Civic Association to use this facility, even if it is on the side, even if the conversation and discussion is on the wrong side of the line, in your opinion, and in the hopes that something good can happen in the future. But if we're not here, the issue is then we're guaranteed to be polarized, because then we can go off to our other place and really start bad mouthing, and that's not.
Well, I guess again, because I was active in the beginning and very much a part of setting up the Civic Association, I know, and you will all agree, there was a lot of events that were going on rapidly where the answer to the questions were, we really can't talk about it. Can't talk about it.
Right.
Okay? And it was to the detriment of the people in the room. We couldn't talk about it. I mean, but you bring it up and then you can't talk about it. Well, it works both ways. I do think that the issues that are coming up are things that probably should be talked about elsewhere, because they're not officially the part of what's going on here. If you recall, the things that we talked about in the beginning, setting up the Civic Association, had to do with money issues, okay, which directly affected our ability to do the things that we wanted to do, and that led to all this cascading events that we find ourselves in. But now it's like, you know, there's a thing to I'm not sure what, catch us in some kind of malfeasance or something. I'm not sure what it is. But anyway, it's angry. It's not mingling. If you want to continue to do it, you have to kind of look at yourself in the mirror. But I do support that if we can't have a civil association between what's going on, that it's not really indicated, it's not fair, it's not advisable to have it going on right here, attacking us.
Yes.
Have the meeting. It's up to you.
Right.
We're not taking that position. We're just saying, if you want to do that kind of stuff, do it. But, you know, you can't ask also to do it if you want to do it.
That's it, done, respectable.
Yeah, I second that, but there are two thoughts, and I'll try to make it real brief. One is you have two different types of organizations. You have a civic association which has a membership. I'm a member. If I don't like what the directors are doing, I'm going to vote them out. It's my job to say, you know what, I don't really like what's going on here, and to not do it behind, you know, and on Facebook and all, but come to the meeting and say, this is my feedback for you. You represent us. We have another organization, that's the government. If I don't like what you guys are doing, I'll vote you out. But you ran for the job. I don't know if you didn't realize that part of the job of being a public figure and a government actor is criticism. And you're going to feel it as an attack if it's an attack. You're going to feel it as criticism. You're going to get praise. A lot of times, I've been in your seat, you know that. A lot more times you get a lot more criticism and a lot more attack than you get praise. That's part of the job. That you took that when you tossed your hat in the ring. I want people to be respectful. I second what Gary said, but it's not always going to be that way.
Your points are always well put, and they're always intelligent and respectful. And I appreciate that.
But not everybody's going to be that way, but that doesn't mean they have no right to voice their opinion.
They have a
No,
right
I'm
to
not
be
talking
free.
about that. What I'm talking about is the type of meeting that kind of led to this, where there was active, and then it spilled over into our meeting here, and in
And it
fact,
shouldn't.
Dee felt the need to interrupt our meeting and just like caucus about like this is like crazy. So it got out of hand. Is there a kind of a middle ground here? Sure, there is, and it's hard to find that line. I'll be the first to admit it. But you know, and I'm trying to have the middle ground here. But at some point, you have to say, look, we're drawing a line. It has to be one way or the other.
You can't draw it against the First Amendment, though. You can ask Joe about that.
Yeah, I think you are confusing being officers of our government with our government. To me, it's as though people wanted to go into the White House and they were Republicans, and Obama went out and said, no, you can't come in, you're Republicans, and I know you're going to talk crap about me when you're in here. To me, it's the same thing. And also, here you have today, you have 150 signatures from residents that say, yeah, we want the Civic Association to be here. As opposed to 6 years ago, when you had, I believe, 39% of 175, which is maybe 70 people, that expressed some interest in having a dock. So 70 versus 60 6 years ago versus 150 people today. I mean, I think you have to give credence to those figures. In addition, I didn't understand when you were talking about a deduction for the people that if people possibly paid into an association to pay for the dock, that they would get some kind of a deduction.
Oh, I didn't say that. That's not.
Okay, all right, then could you clarify that? Because it sounded like a deduction, it's like a tax deduction for people that wanted something in the village. I mean, I guess the question that I have is if somebody else wanted like a three-hole golf course down on California Street, on California Park, would we be jumping to have meetings and to be putting out surveys about that? It's like, I just have a big question about, like, what is this stuff about the dock? Why is it having so much importance in discussions, particularly when there's so many questions about, like, our fiscal health?
Mike Schaefer again. I find it that making a decision, government ruling on something because of personality or issues, not always comes back to bite them, because that organization in a certain amount of time will have different people running it. Okay? Not only are you kicking out the Civic Association, if you do this, you're kicking out the Boy Scouts and everybody else. So just because you don't like what some of the people are saying, okay? So functionally, you should never make a law or a ruling based on something emotional, because it always bites you.
Any comments before we do resolutions? Okay, resolution number 1, resolution adopting the December 10th, 2015 agenda as printed. So moved. All in favor?
Resolution accepting the monthly reports of the village public safety and department staff. So moved.
Right. All in favor?
Number 2.
Second.
Resolution adopting the minutes from November 17th, 2015, work session, meeting of the Board of Trustees. So moved.
Motion carries.
Resolution adopting the minutes. Oh, yeah. On November 17, 2015 meeting of the Board of Trustees. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution directing Fort Newfield to order village stickers for 2016. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution approving the village engineer and environmental commissioner to begin the feasibility study for a community dock. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Resolution to approve the mayor to sign agreement with the town of Brookhaven for 2016 salt, sand, and general repairs. So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution approving an increase in the
Okay, so no, number 8 and number 9 are
Yeah.
not increase.
No, it's hiring.
Hiring.
Approving hiring of William Bond for $13.50.
Okay. So, resolution approving the hiring of William Bone, effective retroactively to November 2015.
Resolution approving the hiring.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A resolution approving the hiring of Charles Wanzer at $14.93, effective retroactive to November 2015.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution approving an increase in the hourly wage to Dave Chantier from $13.90 to $14.93, effective January 4th, 2016. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution approving an increase in the hourly wage of Robert Shannon from $14.42 to $14.93 effective January 4th. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Resolution finding a condition and nuisance at 60 Washington Street to be hazardous or unsafe after consideration of inspector's report, and directing the inspector or code enforcement to give notice to the owner or tenants at 60 Washington Street to correct nuisance under Village Code 50-8. So moved.
Second.
Yeah, what,
No, I had Frank didn't mention it.
what is this?
Frank, you have a report on 60 Washington?
You have the reports up there.
No, over here. Nice, might be referenced. This is a nuisance property also, and unregistered motor vehicle. Nuisance property and unregistered motor vehicle. Okay. Let's see, describe violation. 50-5, not more than $1,000 and or up to 15 days imprisonment.
And you have to find
These are the findings. Uncovered, unregistered boat, 14 inside yard. With torn cover.
Yeah, Mike has a boat.
Various miscellaneous
That's
debris,
my house.
Work tools
Yeah.
and buckets. Uncovered motor vehicle, assumed to be unregistered but unable to confirm. The pictures were.
It's covered. Tell me again, Barry. 15 days.
Boats wrecked.
Oh, you should still see it.
Well, I just think that, I mean, the person hearing this, and the early days where they're wanting to their,
Well, back in May, but then we had thrown out of focus. We were told by the justice that we had to present it to the court.
well, I guess we could.
You can table it to next month.
Okay.
I know.
Why don't we write them a letter and say you have 50 days to clean it up? That's really what that resolution says.
Okay, well, if it says this, if you want to rephrase the resolution, then I would,
Well, it says that they're going to give notice to the owner to correct the violation. That's what they'll do.
Okay, so what you read, we're not threatening them with that.
No,
No.
You're just saying that we're authorizing
Right.
the
That's
letter
just,
to go out?
that's just what the penalty would be, you know, if it goes forward.
And how much time do they have to,
Jail.
We have 14 days.
from the time they receive the letter? Is that standard procedure?
Can I make one suggestion? The last line of this page, where it says Village Code 50-8, if I could just, Village Code Chapter 50.
Chapter.
Yeah, Chapter 50. And the same thing on the next one.
So do you have a motion?
I said so moved, do we second it?
No,
No,
no.
I'm okay, if that's what it is, then the whole answer behind it, okay.
Okay, John 13. Oh, well, I'm sorry. No.
No.
No, they didn't table it. They didn't vote on it either. I'd like to know who's voting yes or no.
Motion second, because the
Yes,
judge was
yeah,
just-
can you motion it, and then a second, and then, just, you
Motion
have
by
to redo
Harry Jerry,
that.
second by Senator Nicoletti. Vote on item number 12, 2010-12.
Why don't we redo it?
I
Read
think
it
we
out
should-
again, so that we have a clear understanding of what we're voting on.
Resolution
So we had, this comes from the village court. There was a case in the village court. It was the same type of case. I don't know if it was the same one. I don't want to say if it was or wasn't on the report. But the case was sent back to the village trustees with a direction from the court that the board has to follow this procedure that's in Chapter 50, and it's basically this starts a notification procedure that ends up with the violation being written if it's not responded to.
Resolution finding a condition and nuisance at 60 Washington Street to be hazardous or unsafe after consideration of inspector's report, and directing the inspector or code enforcement to give notice to the owner or tenant at 60 Washington Street to correct nuisance under Village Chapter 50-8.
Now, has it been found unsafe by the inspector?
Second.
That
Nuisance
That's
or-
what they're-
Yeah, the inspector. Whose house is it?
It's mine.
Well, who's the inspector?
This code was out. They went out there and inspected
Yes,
it.
code did, yeah.
Who's inspector?
Code.
Code?
Is not legal.
What is the violation?
All right, this is not legal. This is not open comment. Say so moved.
So moved.
Second?
I read the findings before.
Second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
What else is new?
Yeah.
What's the second?
John.
Okay,
Four to
resolution
one.
finding condition and nuisance at 27 Wall Street.
All right, people, quiet.
At 27 Wall Street, along the street, to be hazardous or unsafe after consideration of the inspector's report, and directing the inspector or code enforcement to give notice to the owner or tenants at 27 Walnut to correct nuisance under Village Code. What is it, just
Chapter
50?
50.
Chapter 50, okay.
50
So moved?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries.
Resolution.
No, this is gonna be a motion, right? We're not, we're removing this resolution, 12-2015-14. I'm making a motion to, not allow anyone to use Village Hall. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Wait a minute.
What for?
Explain that again. You said we're not gonna do this.
We're not doing the resolution.
Okay,
Okay.
which is this resolution, so, all right.
We're making
No,
a
it's not the
motion.
resolution.
No, that's
There's
not.
no resolution.
Oh.
That's what she just said. She just said, she's making the mayor's making a motion. It's not associated with any written resolution. The motion, as it stands, is motion to, discontinue the use of the village hall. My recommendation is that somebody make a motion to amend the motion language to be that the motion to not allow outside groups, not allow non-governmental outside groups to use the village hall pending further policy review by the village. Or consideration, further policy review and consideration by the village board.
How long will that take?
Or you could just have, just as simple as you said, but I just suggest that you make, the language that you had was discontinue the use of the village hall. I think it should be discontinue the use of the village hall for non-governmental outside groups. And then if you want to add in pending further, that's fine.
We did do pending review. How about that?
I'm not,
Do you want to change it?
I would like to have a motion that, before we consider resolutions.
That's not gonna be a resolution. Well, I know what you're saying, okay.
Make a motion that, this be postponed until there is a meeting between the mayor and board of trustees of the Civic Association to discuss the use of the hall and ground rules and differences.
So then until that time, the village hall, nobody can use it until that time.
Well, I personally
That's
don't
what I'd
want
like
to
to
go
add
now,
that.
but that's your thing.
Yes, that's what I want to add.
There's a pending motion, excuse me,
Yes.
the mayor made a pending motion. The mayor made a motion which is pending. And I suggested a language change, but there's no action on that right now. So, trustee Jeff made a motion to table the pending motion, which has been seconded. So the issue before the board now is whether there's a second on the trustee's motion to table the motion.
Right, but are we including in there that until that occurs, that we'll not allow anyone to meet in there?
You can reintroduce.
That means no Christmas party, in other words.
They already have things scheduled,
Okay, so what do we do next week?
When you say Joe, that's going on no matter what, right?
requested is the use of village property through the standard agreement that we had for the use of village property.
So let them use it for Saturday, and then after that, until the meeting, no one can use the village hall until we settle it. I'm fine with that. Next week we have the snow pits here anyway.
Well, but then that could be indefinitely delayed if we don't then go and bring it to closure. That would be the status quo, unless that's.
We can review in January.